Welcome, everybody, once again to Pacific Mystery School. And I'm really happy to be with you. I'm really happy to see you today. And today is, in some ways, my favorite of all. We're going into the eighth power symbolization. So we're on our quest of visionary cosmology and tarot of the spirit. And eight is our greatest power, which I'll talk about as humans. But in case I forget to say it, which I might, think in the back of your mind during this presentation, if you could pick anything, what would you like your own life to represent or symbolize in this world? That means, what would you project outward if it could be anything? So just think about that as we go through. All right. Okay, so we're on our journey in visionary cosmology, which we've been on during our year-long hermitage, where we are exploring linear and non-linear sequences in the tarot, on the tree of life, in spirit, heart, mind, and body. And the reason I say that they're linear and non-linear is sometimes they're linear, a lot of times they're linear, like the 8 follows the 7, which follows the 6. But as you know, when you get into tarot and you start pulling cards randomly, you can find yourself jumping all over. And this is the way life really is. It does jump all over. But if we know the sequence, we can work with it. If we know the 1, 2, 3, 4, that's like a developmental sequence. And all of this sequence is based inside the Western Mystery School, and it's based on the tree of life, which you always interpret. It's always up to you to interpret that. So here, back to visionary cosmology, I thought I would redefine it. So visionary means unusual foresight. This is you as a visionary, or you having a visionary experience. Unusual foresight existing in your imagination, which is key. Dreaming the future, seeing a vision, becoming a seer. Okay, this is you. And then cosmology is the study of the cosmos, the nature of the universe, the origins, structures, and space-time relations. Where did this come from? Where does it emerge from? Cosmology is the story that is told about something, like how we came to be. So it's used in physics and astrophysics as how did the universe originate, but we can also use it in terms of the story of our lives or cultures. It's used culturally, meaning uh, here's the origin story of our group or our culture or our town. It could be anything. So visionary cosmology then is a meta cosmology, overarching, a meta cosmology integrating state-of-the-art science and state-of-the-art self, interrelated, into a new story, a visionary story, a narrative that has the power to imbue meaning and instigate change. Okay, so especially today, this is what we want to think about. So the eighth power, here we come into the eighth power now. The eighth power is the power of symbolization. And on the tree of life, it's called Hod, which means splendor. Splendor, splendor in the form of majesty, majestic, honor, honorable, authority, grandeur, vigor, divine light, glory, the radiant grandeur that evokes awe and delight. So that's the number 8. Hod, splendor. What we want to lean into today is conscious splendor. So in Sphere 8, we begin to become conscious of what it is we're seeing and identify what it is we're seeing, identify something that stands out that's important to us. And when we see it and when we identify this is what we're looking at, then we can name it. And once we name what it is we're seeing, we can begin to communicate it. And this is how we learn to communicate existence and the methods of existence. So we name in pictures, we can make an image, we name in words. These are all symbols, images, words, models. We can make a model for how things work. And then we can also code in image and sound. We can code what we're seeing and we can brand, we can create brands. So in the pictures here, I gave three different examples of coding or symbolizing what we see. So one is a stained glass window of a dove. One is a book called The Naming of Ghosts. Okay, I haven't read the book, so and I'm not recommending it, but I love the title. Steve Mitchell, that's a great title you got. The Naming of Ghosts. Okay, and then here's a diagram or a model of how birds speciate, starting from this one bird called a founder species, and then into another bird, another kind of bird. So anyway, this is what we do as humans. This is how we occupy ourselves, we with our brilliance. And again, this is our greatest skill. Symbolization is the power of naming. And here's what the word means. Sim means together, bringing together. Bol means balin, like a ball, to throw. So symbolize really means to throw together. Things get thrown together. And so to put in order, to bring into conformance with or to resemble, this is the eyes part of it, to become like or change into, to treat with or combine with, to engage in, to act in a specified way, and then Asian, to be in the state of. So to throw together like throwing a ball and being in the state of doing that. So here are two more examples of how we name. So here's another book, Naming Nature. This is how we do it. And then there's the clash between instinct and science in terms of how we name nature. So we can even argue about how we go about naming things, but naming things is our specialty. And then here's the Android resource naming cheat sheet. Everywhere you look, you're going to see things named, focused on, picked out, focused on, and named. All right, this is the power of symbolization. It's like a representation of the thing itself. Symbols get extracted from reality, and then we code, order, and create reality through these symbols. So here are some examples of a symbol. Also, the pictures show we don't always, what we see is what we look with. And this is our own sensibility in terms of what we see. Okay, so what is a symbol? First definition, it's a token, a pledge, a sign, an emblem, a letter, a number, a word, something that stands for or represents something else, an aspect of the universe in which we are observing. Number two, a symbol is a written or a printed mark, like a letter, an abbreviation, something that stands for an object or a quality or a process or a quantity, as in writing, music, mathematics, chemistry, for example. It's also an act or an object. It can be an act, an action can be symbolic, an act or an object that represents a desire emerging from the unconscious realm. Okay, so if we're starting to experience something, then a symbol can come up where we name it. And I just thought of an example of this when I was creating Tarot of the Spirit, the Tarot deck, Tarot of the Spirit, and I was trying to write the book. And I did a lot of meditation in writing the book, and then I would get an idea, like a something that felt like it was coming from out of the cosmos, and I would try to translate that feeling or that sensation or what I was apprehending or experiencing, I would try to translate it into words. And I called it translation. I called what I was doing translation. I did a lot of research too. That's different. This was almost like my own cosmic research, which fell into a category of translation, translating from a place of no words to a place of words. Okay, equations are also symbols. This is math. Equations, through equations, we code and shape our experience, such as 2 plus 2 is 4, or logic. If A equals B and B equals C, then does A equal C? Okay, these are just examples of how we symbolize as humans. Another example, words and language, written, sung, and spoken, code and shape our experience. And I said, give me a poem that represents this. This is a translation from the cosmos. And I received this poem, popped into my head. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. Anyway, so that was the one that popped into my head. Of course, even the word, the tree symbolizes something, the poem symbolizes something, and even God symbolizes something. We have this word. What does it mean? Okay, and so you can see that it may have a different meaning to each of us. Zen Buddhists talk about the idea of the moon. If you mention the moon, what moon are you talking about? Are you talking about a moon that's up in the sky? Is the moon that when you say the word moon, is it a real moon? You know, but it orients us. We all know moon. We may see a different kind of moon. You might see a crescent moon. You might see a full moon in your mind. You might see nothing, but you might see an eclipse. Who knows? I mean, but moon orients us. The word moon. And this is what we do as humans. It's how we be as humans. We also symbolize belief systems so that we can pass them on. And the belief systems code and shape us. And I picked out Buddhism because just as an example, because Buddhism tends to put things into numbers like the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, making it very simple to get it and understand it. So, for example, in Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths would be suffering. Okay, that life is suffering. Number two, that there is a cause of suffering, which is desire. Number three, there's an end of suffering, which is releasing attachment. And then we do that through the way or path of enlightenment. So the path of enlightenment, Eightfold Path, right view, right resolve, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right meditation. Okay, so then you can take those things and then you can operationalize them further. Like here's how you do it, you know? And so this is again, this is our great skill as humans to be able to put this into words that then we can toss out like that ball, toss it across the country. I always think of lobbing a fireball to Kansas. That's always what I think of when I'm writing, making a fireball and lob it to the center of Kansas. Okay, tarot is also a whole symbolic system of coded, interpretable images. So you look at this image and you see all this symbolism on it. You see yellow, which can be symbolic. For example, you see wings, you see a figure eight, you see a female, just in what we're looking at right now. And all of this is coded in ways that we understand both consciously and subconsciously, because in our subconscious mind we have infinite array of symbols that we already get. We already understand them. Okay, so then we can also consciously interpret the entire universe as we know it. It's not just us, because we are, in fact, universe. Okay, we are universe. We are universe rising up out of itself. And the entire universe, as we know it, retains, learns, produces, and reproduces itself through coding and remembering its experience. But we don't really know how this happens as humans. We can only grasp a small piece of it, but we know that the universe is able to reproduce itself and adjust itself in its formation. For example, elementary particles, atoms. Atoms know how to retain the memory of how to continue to be atoms and continue to have specific functioning. Atoms have retained their structure and memory, the memory of their structure, for 14 billion years. That is, quote, how long our universe has been around. Atoms, I say quote because we really don't know, but our science estimates it, right? 13.8 billion years. Okay, atoms remember how to combine into molecules, and molecules remember how to combine into larger formations, and this just keeps going. Stars and star systems remember how to create themselves and evolve. It's miraculous how this happens. In DNA on Earth, for example, DNA codes evolve knowledge of the evolving product and the process. Every single cell of our bodies contains DNA, the DNA code. And this DNA code in our bodies seems to remember, contain the memory of creation, maintenance, alteration, destruction, and recreation. And half of our DNA in our body is Earth DNA. It codes us as being earthlings. We're of Earth. And then, in addition to that, there's this specific nature that each individual has. A tiny part of the DNA codes for originality, and every single person is original. Also, humans then have the power to create symbols, symbolic systems. And these symbolic systems are specific to our own species, and they carry the power to create, maintain, alter, destroy, and recreate human consciousness every day, individually and collectively. This is the amazing part. Every one of us has this power. The eighth power is the realm of logic and science. Humans seek to understand cosmological coding mechanisms. So we're always looking at how is the universe coding itself. Humans have learned that on Earth, the process of evolution is coded with DNA. Humans have found understanding by coding the DNA, figuring out how to code the DNA alphabet. Oh, there's a DNA alphabet, and we can actually code that. These sequences of being and becoming. And then humans identify, name these processes, identify and name these processes. And that's part of the eighth power, symbolization, which is where science lives. Okay, how are we going to code this? And I just put a note on here, eighth power symbolization, that I often use the terms sphere and power interchangeably. So sphere is the sphere on the tree of life, but it's also a power. That position, it's a position on the tree of life. Okay, the dialectic. Okay, dialectic means when it's like a figure eight going back and forth. You send something out, something changes, it comes back, like this, back and forth, back and forth. And dialectically speaking, we code and are being coded at the same time. So human symbolic code has the power to create, maintain, destroy, and recreate the enveloping environment. That's the environment we live in. And an example is advertising, which is our biggest form of coding. And with advertising, anything we want to market, anything we want to put out there, we are creating symbolic reality. So this it is stated by studies that we often see over 3,000 ads a day. And these codes, they're codes, and they're meant to stimulate our consciousness on a symbolic level. They condition us to respond in ways we may or may not be consciously aware of. And, I say, look at the pen in your hand. Uh, do you see a brand or logo? I just picked up my pen and it says Parsons. What the heck? Anyway, it's advertising. So our society creates itself symbolically, and babies recognize fast food logos before they can talk. A lot. Okay. This is an efficacious logo here that does anybody know what that one on the bottom? You know it. You've seen it before, I betcha. So the McDonald's logo, because it's so simple that you can pick it out, you know it. The baby driving down the street can point and say, there it is, there it is. Very exciting, very exciting. Okay, viceroys filter the smoke. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but your dentist would recommend viceroys. Okay, there you go. So when you're smoking, make sure you choose Viceroy. And then our world, if you're in New York and you're walking down the street or any downtown area, you will see so many names and symbols. You feel like you don't notice them, but the fact is you do. And I thought, oh, is this really true? What about if you live in a rural area? So I went myself a few days ago, I went walking down a country road and I found myself pummeled with symbols and advertising that I wasn't expecting. Like any car that goes by, it's got writing on it. Uh, any trailer, uh, any. Oh, this is really funny. I wanted to say any Weber, which would be like some kind of outdoor cooker, right? Oh, wow. Okay, my dad was in advertising. I used to argue with him about a lot of things all the time, like horrible commercials on TV, things like that, that I just couldn't believe came out of the advertising business. I did not approve of some of the things his company did. And he assured me that it doesn't matter if the ad is good or bad. The only thing that matters is if you remember the name of the product. So some of the worst ads are the most effective. So he taught me, he was a capitalist and he taught me that. Okay. And now I understand what he was saying. All right. Sphere eight. Sphere eight is the consciousness of consciousness. So we're conscious. We're definitely conscious. But when we become conscious of consciousness and start to name it, we can become very, very effective. The power of eight, symbolization, it follows the power of seven. So seven's that place where we're seeking and we don't know what we're seeking. We haven't named it yet. So in seven, we sense, we perceive, we dream, we imagine. We may get a bunch of symbols, but we don't know how they fit together. In eight, we code our experience and express our experience. And then this expression of our experience can impact our ongoing dream. So it comes into our subconscious or into our dream life, that which we name, and then our dream can go to another level. By the way, that's why writing, when we write something, we don't know what we're going to write. Like, say, if you're journaling and you write something, once you've written it down and you can understand it, that's symbolizing it, you can go to another level with it. But sometimes if we don't write something down or intentionally try to move to another level, we keep going around in the same circle. with the same ideas we can't quite grasp. So you might try journaling, writing things down. If you want to move to another level with your thinking, try working with the power of symbolization. So these visions and revelations may first appear as ineffable memories that we can't, I mean, mysteries, ineffable mysteries that we can't quite grasp, but then we interpret them and we make sense of them. And you've all heard this story that Einstein dreamed E equals mc square, or he guessed it. And then he started to try to symbolize it and do the math. Symbolization is the consciousness of consciousness extracted from the perceived and put into somewhat extracted, abstracted, theoretical form. Okay, that's a mouthful, right? But so symbolization is consciousness extracted from the perceived and then put into an abstracted theoretical form, the symbol. And then once we do that, we start to realize we know so much more than we thought we knew. So the eight follows the seven, seven moves into eight in this dialectic fashion, and then eight flows into number seven. So number seven, the power and the sphere is transmutation, the sphere of transmutation. And then once we go into that place of number seven, we're talking about visionary cosmology here, transmutation, symbolization. We go into seven seeking, we change, something shifts, something changes. Then when we come out of it and we think about it consciously, we can begin to name what happened. That's symbolization. But once we name it, it goes back into that realm of mystery again, where we're exploring. Then we name it, it comes back, and we symbolize it. So it's this continual flow of energy between seven and eight. This is on the tree of life. So the four sevens go in and out of the four eights all the time. So the seven of fire and eight of fire, this is what I have up on the screen. Tarot, seven of fire, eight of fire, seven of water, eight of water, seven of wind, eight of wind, seven of earth, eight of earth. And it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So seven of fire, seven into eight into seven, spirit. It's about energy. So in number seven, we have the courage. The card is called courage. We muster the courage to sense the nature of our own story. And then moving into eight, the lightning path. This is where we can name the story in the big picture. And this is actually a diagram of the whole tree of life. And once we get it, it's like, oh, and then it acts back on our story. Once we understand the developmental pieces, it acts back on our story. And then we can tell our story in a much more profound way. And then water, emotion. This is a field of sensation, seven into eight into seven. So seven, we start getting insight. We start intuiting some kind of direction to go in. And then in the eight, we are able to drop it down and go further. So this is interesting. I'm going to come back to this, how the eights become a method. Depending on what suit they're in, they're a different kind of method. So if we're starting to get this intuition in the seven, then in the eight, because of the nature of water, we can drop down into deep meditation where seeds of possibility will begin to appear. And then we can nurture those seeds as we move forward. And then in the air, the wind, in the intellect, this becomes conscious mind, seven into eight into seven. So in the seven of wind, many tongues, we share, we are talking to each other, we're sharing possibilities. And then in the eight, power shield, we take what we're learning and we walk it out in truth, love, and conviction. So the sharing process intellectually impacts the way we walk in truth, love, and conviction. And then that acts again on how we're communicating with others. Okay. And then with earth, matter, the body, how we embody our experience. Seven, the earth, we imagine our garden. And this means we imagine the kind of life we want to live, and then we name it, and then we're walking the mountain, which is a metaphor for earth, and we learn that it's the way we're walking and the way we keep imagining and the way we're living our lives that is the important part. And in the mountain, we want to stay our course. Okay, so these would, however, when you do a reading, there are so many ways that you can identify these cards, and you will know how in the reading. But so at first, when the card comes up, you may not know what it means. So then you start to symbolize it in your own consciousness to match your story that you're coming up with in the moment. Okay, so seven flows into eight and back into seven, and it continues. And wildly, wildly, the seven and eight on the tree of life are connected by the tower. So I love this. I love this that they're connected by the tower because between the seven, which is this sphere of imagination and wonder and dreams, and then symbolizing that, once we get those new dreams, it starts breaking things down and changing things and also building new things up. So our power of symbolization is always going to be changing as we're experiencing things shifting. Then when we get things symbolized, it acts back on our dreams and imagination and changes those things within us. So the tower is this ever-changing vibration that raises things up and also knocks them down. And it acts on both spheres seven and eight, and they act on each other. So in Hebrew, the tower is called Pei. This is my favorite part of the tower. The tower is called Pei, which means the mouth, and is also spoken of as the voice of God. And it has been spoken of in the Judeo-Christian tradition as the word, a vibration. It's also known as and influences the lightning flash. So this is lightning flash of new information. And what it really is it's a vibration that changes the way things are. Okay, now I told you about this before and I decided to really share this, okay, to this time. Okay, these are the tower experiments that I did, and I wanted to show you how changing the tone or the note changes the configuration of the world. Okay, so sometimes this is called the word and it's a vibration. Okay, so here are the experiments. This, what you are looking at, and here's advertising on this experiment because I used the advertising. You see, it says Bose. You can't avoid it. Okay, but I used the advertising, the Bose, which this is a Bose speaker, to orient the camera so I could get the camera in the right place. Okay, so here's what happens. You are looking at a speaker. You are looking down on the top of a speaker. You are looking at a piece of wax paper over the top of the speaker. And on top of the wax paper, you are looking at salt, just poured out. You are looking at Morton salt. Okay, Morton salt. There we go. Okay, so here comes the experiment. There's no sound. So the first one is there's no sound. This is what you are looking at in the first one is you are looking at me taking my fingers and swirling the salt around. And then I thinking to myself, oh, that kind of looks like the Milky Way. So I make it into the Milky Way galaxy. Okay. which just quick, two quick swipes like that. Okay, so now here comes played with a synthesizer, okay, the note C. Okay, so this is middle C. This is going to be middle C, and it's going to be sustained. So here's me playing middle C. It comes out of the speaker. So what happens is all the salt in the Milky Way jumps and jumps and jumps and jumps and jumps, and then it starts to form into a picture. Okay, after 4 minutes, it solidifies and moves no longer. So it's still the tone's still going on, but the picture doesn't change. Okay, so that's the C that you're looking at. Looks kind of like this little, wow, it just looks like a wolf head kind of with two little eyes. Okay, so then and a tail. Okay, anyway, and then okay, fine, it stopped moving. 4.5 minutes just to be sure. So then I go to a D. So I did it in order. So then let's go to a D. Okay, so same thing. So I play the D starts to come through. There's no blank in between, by the way, although it wouldn't have mattered, but it went straight from a C to a D, C, D. So here's a D, everything jumps up, everything just jumps, all of it. And then it starts solidifying again. So, it takes about 4 minutes and it becomes absolutely solid. So you can see that the picture has moved. It hasn't changed horrifically, but it's definitely moved. Okay, but first it all went up in there, then it resettled and resettled into that position. Okay, now here we go with the E, F, G, A, and B. So it turns out that the higher the note, the quicker the solidification process became until it only took 3 minutes and then it wouldn't move anymore. Maybe even 2.5 minutes and it wouldn't move. So the lower tones took longer to change. But so here is the E, and you see it changing to, it gets more spread out. The F gets really spread out, but the G is even more spread out before it solidifies. So then the A, interestingly, starts to a little bit come back together in larger forms again, and the B, but they're different. And remember, they're frozen. Okay, so then we go back to the C, we go to the high C, okay, which is on the right, that's at the octave, and the high C on the octave begins to solidify. Okay, I'm sorry, I have the label backwards on these, I just noticed. So the one on the left is the high C. Okay, you have to ignore those two labels. The one on the left is the high C, and that's where it ended. And then I put in our original C to show you that it looked like the two C's are getting closer in their pattern. Okay, if you can follow me. So those are one octave apart, but they're closer in their pattern than any of the other tones. I just thought that was interesting. Okay, so next slide. So I decided to play, I played chords. I went through a whole lot of stuff. I played various chords, and then I finally played Beethoven's Fifth. I thought, well, what would that be like? So I put on Beethoven's Fifth, and it was jumping all over the place. This is Beethoven's Fifth is, na 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 na. Okay, you know that, you've heard it. Okay, so everything is jumping around, but then after a while, it's totally solidified and stopped moving, which was really wild. So it stopped on this position. That was Beethoven's Fifth, also called the Fate Symphony. So after a lot of wild leaping around, a solidified form begins to emerge. Okay, this is something like what goes on in our consciousness. All these new ideas, then it gets solidified in a symbol. And it is said that writing came from watching forms solidify with vibrations and things like this, that it began to come out. That was part of it. Okay, so here's this. Here is Beethoven's Fifth solidified, And then I just got a kick out of this. So Beethoven's Fifth. Is it a lightning flash that raises and fells? You know? So because when you hear it, your consciousness is all over the place and then it begins to form. Just some ideas, okay? Just some things. My my point and my purpose really, I only have two. I have two. One is to inspire you, and the other is to empower you, whatever that means. Just get empowered. All right. So the tower is called the girder of the astral triangle between 7 and 8. And those girders, the ones that go across, they brace the tree. So they say in the Western mystery tradition, the astral triangle, which is 7, 8, and 9, and those three paths between, the astral triangle is where the personality is formed. So here's where your personality comes from. It's from that imagination, your symbolization, and then how it flows into the subconscious, and that's what you're acting out of, whether you realize it or not. Okay. So the tower is what they call the roof of the astral triangle. So it goes over everything in the astral triangle. It's a very important path, the vibration and how we attune to the vibrations that are constantly shaking us, rocking us. Sphere 9, number 9, is called the root of the astral triangle. So everything grows up out of number 9, which is the subconscious or the unconscious. So here comes the the growth out of the unconscious, and then we have the path of the tower, and it grows up into the tree that creates our life. We are the walking tree of life. Sphere 9, the subconscious or the unconscious. We'll talk about it more next time, but essentially, number 9 is a repository or storehouse of information that's within us all the time. We're not aware of it. Some of it gets revealed in the 8, and in the 7, it's usually concealed until we tap it, and then it gets revealed in the 8 as it goes back and forth on that path of the tower. And once we also, whatever, this is why they say it's the personality triangle, because whatever's happening in the 9 is going to flow into the 7, even though we may not be conscious of it. It flows into the 8, where we become conscious of it. It flows into the 6, where we try to balance it. And it flows into the 10, Malkut, where we walk our path in the world based on our subconscious and what's going on in the subconscious. So note, we'll talk about it next time, but just to note, if we want to change our life, we have to work in the subconscious arena. We have to figure out how to bring that out to change our lives. Okay. So 7, the quest for revelation. 8, emerging awareness and methodology. This I mentioned before. But so methodology means study of a method. So the number 8 in each suit is going to also refer to a rapid movement once we get the elemental nature of the suit. Like there'll be a rapid movement in 8 of fire, 8 of water, 8 of wind, 8 of earth, but it will be of a different form. In fire, it's a movement in spiritual or energetic movement following the revelation of the 7, okay, and the tower experience. Water, to move the energy in water. So fire, we're going to act, we're going to move out like fire is. Water, we're going to drop down, and that becomes our method, dropping deep down, 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 like a meditation. And we're going to nurture the tender seedlings there. In air or wind, we move into our protection, and the way that we're going to protect our consciousness, our mind, our thoughts is we are going to move forward with this is how we move out of fear too, with our greatest truth, our greatest love, and the courage of our convictions. And we're going to do that powerfully and quickly. And once we know the system, we can move the energy. And I said MLK because I want to refer to Martin Luther King, because that's exactly what he did in his moments of fear. He went into his truth, love, and the courage of his conviction. So we'll return to him. He's one of my favorite role models. Okay, in Earth, what do we learn in Earth? Earth is the mountain. We learn how to persevere. And so this is rapid movement in learning how to stay the course, how to walk the path, and realizing it's not about going somewhere, it's about how we are walking the path. That is the most important thing in Earth, how we are walking it, how we are engaging moment by moment by moment. And the goal is not the destination. We are continually arriving moment by moment by moment in the way that we live. Okay, the way we live. This is what's so important about the eights. So power seven, eight, and nine again, and the connecting paths form personality. So personality can change, and it does. It can be shed, and its health depends on the environment. And I think a lot of us are very aware of this right now, how we're changing, how we're responding to our external environment. Character is a little bit different. It's based on our deepest values. It doesn't move as fast. It takes longer to develop, and it stays strong in the harshest of weathers. I like that. Okay, and back to Martin Luther King, the astral triangle. This is seven, eight, and nine, where personality is formed. And Martin Luther King says, I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. You can remember him saying that. What is the character? And he was developing his own character, seven into eight, back and forth, and then seeding nine, the subconscious, always putting that into the subconscious. We don't know that's where it's going, but according to the tree of life, everything is flowing into the subconscious. And that's what we live from. Okay, so these are the paths of the astral triangle, the tower, which we talked about, and then also the sun, which is the eight to the nine, and the star, which is the seven to the nine. So, okay, so revelation is number seven. That's that imagination place. So seven plus the eight, symbolization, and then the nine is the subconscious. That's where we remember everything, even though we don't know we're remembering it. It can be there. Okay, I get distracted sometimes. One time I took a class on total recall. I was in high school still, and and the teacher said everything you've ever experienced is there, even if you don't think it's there. So I want you to imagine that you're driving someplace or you're riding someplace in the car, and now you're going to see something. Well, I'm going to tell you, I have not expressed this for years. I just remembered it this second. I saw a dead dog by the side of the road, and it upset me so much, and I blocked that memory out completely. And I was really upset by it. So then and there, I decided I didn't want total recall. I don't want total recall. What am I doing in this class? However, I realized it's all there, and we will act subconsciously out of the stuff that we're blocking because it's there. Once we get the right triggers, we start to think about it. Okay, so the tower connects seven and eight, and that's the new vibration that shifts the world. Sun, we have talked about before, and we'll talk about again, but that connects eight and nine, subconscious to the power of symbolization. And here's where, if we need to know more, we can shine a light in those dark places of the subconscious. We can look at it intentionally. And then the star goes from seven to nine, back and forth. Seven is those visions and those mysteries that come in dreams, and those seed the subconscious too. They move into the subconscious and become contained there. So, and then here's a little bit more. So the sun, path 30, that goes from 8 to 9, this shining a light in the dark places, illuminating awareness, and it also creates a field of innocence and transparency once we look at it and see it clearly and let it show itself to us, whatever it is. And then path 28, the star, which goes from the seven, the imagination, into the nine. This is a place of cosmological vision, and it gives us a sense of belonging in the universe when we discover our soulmatehood with the universe and we follow our star, and we realize we are cosmological beings. The universe is not out there someplace. We actually are the walking universe on the planet Earth. We are made of all that. And so, strength, which is this is the major arcana, also stands with the four eights. And the star, which is number 17 in the major arcana, and 1 + 7 is 8, stands behind strength. Okay, so those two are always working together, even if we don't realize it. Strength is the power of healing and making whole. It brings everything together. It connects sphere 4 and 5, cosmos and chaos. How do we balance those two things? The cosmos and then all the disruptions. Cosmos means order and chaos means disruption. Well, the strength and the healing is the girder of the ethical triangle that connects the 4 and the 5. So we're also working with strength all the time, connecting what seems stable with that which seems chaotic. So how will we work those energies? So strength is another girder holding the tree in place. And then the star is our experience of the whole cosmological story. It's Aquarius. It connects sphere 7, which is the vision quest and the place of transmutation out of the vision quest, connects sphere 7 with sphere 9, subconscious memory. So that path, those paths are all working together. Okay, and then the astral triangle again is the place where our personality is formed. Astral means coming from the stars. Astral means star. It is the unmanifest field that contains mysterious forces and forms that we are walking in. So it both means coming from the stars, but it's also everything that surrounds us and is within us is all this astral fluid, as Madame HPB Blavatsky called it, astral fluid. Okay, so how does our vision of self change when we look at ourselves as cosmological beings creating a cosmological story? Does this change our story? Okay, and this is something I really want you to think about. Again, the universe is not out there somewhere, it's right here. What does that mean? We arose right out of it as it. It's one of my favorite words. It, okay, capitalized. So the story we live inside of and create creates our personality. That's our nature, especially as it deeply affects our behavior, our character, our disposition, our temperament, and our makeup, which in the beginning and the end, all of that's going to be based on our deepest, strongest values. And that's character. Sphere 8 is also seated by sphere 5 through the hanged man. And the hanged man is the path you see on the tree of life. It goes from sphere 5, that place of chaos, straight into sphere 8. How are we going to symbolize this? How are we going to understand all the stuff that's happening in sphere number 5? How will we make sense of it? That's sphere number 8. Well, the hangman requires us to not think and enter into a metamorphosis to reach the highest form of understanding, if you can follow that, of sphere number 5, because 5 is the place that is our greatest difficulty. In the fire, it's spiritual struggle. So you can think of the 5 of fire flowing into the lightning path. That means seeing the whole picture on that lightning path card. So going from the spiritual struggle to the lightning path, which is number 8, requires a release of the struggle and going into this clear, open field of the hangman. And then we're going to emerge in 8 with this vision of how it all fits together. That's the idea, 5 into 8. Broken heart, what do? Go into still waters, meditation. And then pretty soon we arrive at the eight. We get it. Then we can get up and leave our meditation cushion and say, yes, I got it. Okay, in the air, the wind, five is fear. Okay, so release, 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 and then we emerge with power shield. My truth, my love, and the courage of my convictions are stronger than my fear. So here I put again MLK, Martin Luther King. I will go forward. And guess what? And he said, I've seen the mountain. I've seen the mountaintop. I've been there. I'm going forward with my love. Okay, no matter what. So five of earth, the nadir, that's where everything's going wrong on earth. Okay, go into the five, go into the hangman, release, 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 go through the metamorphosis, and then realize it's not about reaching the peak, it's about staying the course. What course is right for you and walking it every day. All right, so the hangman allows us to release and then allow the metamorphosis to occur within us. And that path flows both ways. So the five goes into eight, and the eight also goes into the five. Okay, these are all the paths that influence the eight. So you can see how they all pour in. The tower, we already talked about, just talked about the hangman a little bit. We talked about the sun. We have not talked about the devil yet or resurrection. And both of those paths also flow into the eight and out of the eight. So the eight, eight going into sphere six, which is synergy. So how does our power of symbolization go into synergy with the devil? So we'll come to that in a second. And then the other one, the last one is resurrection. How does eight flow directly into the way we walk on the earth without passing through the subconscious, number nine? It goes straight in. And the way we walk on the earth also goes straight into the number eight as well. Okay, I know this is complicated and it takes years to learn all this stuff, so don't worry about it. Just take in what feels right now. So here's the devil. So what is the devil about between the eight and the six? The eight symbolization and the six, which would be synergy and living on the planet in a synergistic way. So the devil teaches us how to focus our energy, focus our vision, expand our view, increase our awareness of the field in which we are walking, releasing artificial bonds, and then create or transcend our seeing and seeing through the spin. The devil helps us broaden our picture so we can see through the way we're being told to see and we can see a bigger picture. So if you need more information, I don't want to go into this anymore, but read about the devil or look at the devil. In Hebrew, the devil's called Ayin, Ayin, which is third eye. Going to the third eye and expand the picture. We are not as trapped as it seems. That's one of the teachings of the devil. And then resurrection. Okay, resurrection is seeing through the veil, so it's also seeing a bigger picture. Follow your higher calling. Leave the dark pyramid of the past behind and move through the veil. Okay, become whole. Part of this is about exploring that subconscious too, but you can become whole. You can rend the veil, see through it, and you will see, know, and become directly. Just be aware that you can part this veil by following your higher calling. So it's another way through. Follow your higher calling. Live the story only you can live. Following our dreams keeps our souls alive. And so here I will throw in again, if you wanted your life to symbolize something, what would it be? Like what comes into your consciousness right now when you think about it? Just what do you want to represent with your whole life? When people know of you, what would you want them to know about you? Okay, so the astral triangle again pertains both to the individual and the collective. And here I put this picture in, follow your dreams, canceled, because I am aware that it can also be difficult because of prevailing conditions. So I say, do the best you can within the prevailing conditions and work the parts that you can work. So in power number 7, dream your dream, follow your quest, sense, and begin to morph. And then in power 8, come to the conscious recognition and symbolize the best you can and name the best you can within the prevailing conditions. Power 9, which we'll talk about next time again, absorbing. The subconscious absorbs and contains all that which we know and all that which is unknown individually and collectively. And then we add in the other 3 paths of that triangle. The tower, things are shifting. How do we shift as a result of that? The sun illuminating dark spaces externally and collectively. So it's both internal and external. And then for the star, follow our highest, deepest, and greatest cosmological calling, the internal and the individual, plus whatever's going on externally, we take into account. But all I want to say is do the best you can. If you're doing the best you can, it's all you can do. Follow your dreams the best you possibly can. And then create your code. Do your best, because the cosmos, both internally and externally, codes and remembers. So we're going to code. The idea is coding the subconscious. Remember, start here. Remember, you are living cosmos. This is visionary cosmology. And if you forgot that, you have to go back to the power of 1, sphere number 1. Who are you really? You wield the power of 8. You wield it. So we code the results of our experience in sphere 7. Then in sphere 8, we transfer or communicate our vision to others. And I threw in this Einstein quote: education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. So we can train ourselves in how to do this and how to work with the power of 8. Symbolizing your dreams as making art. It's really the art of your life. I'm using art as a metaphor, but you might be making actual visual art. But symbolizing our dreams, when we get to that point of symbolizing our dreams, this is the art of our lives. Make your art and cast it into the world. The power of symbolization. Okay, review. We communicate what's what through symbols, words, and language, sound bites, books, songs, numbers, graphics, images, logos, memes, movies, stories, legends, and myths. These are all number 8 in action. We internalize and live by symbolic systems. And those symbolic systems are held in place by the repetition of shared values. And those shared values create social roles and maintain the symbolic universe. So, and the other thing that maintains the symbolic universe is our routines in the symbolic universe. We want to change the universe, change your routines, and the whole universe changes. Your universe, and then it radiates outward. As a human being, your greatest art is your power of symbolization. Now, other beings on the planet may also be symbolizing. That means extracting from the thing itself, extracting in order to communicate. But we know far less about how other species do this than ourselves. We are constantly being manipulated by the power of symbolization. Okay, so just be aware. And how will you wield it yourself, your own power of symbolization? We inhabit this symbolic universe. Everywhere you look, we are learning how to walk through our universe through this symbolic. This is basic sociology, by the way. This is sociology 101. The symbolic universe communicated through our socialization, that means in our families, in our schools, tells us what's what. Okay, so the symbolic universe orders our history, locates events into past, present, and future, and it establishes shared memories and creates meaning. So, this is our symbolic universe and how it works. And I'm noticing some interesting little errors with a parentheses in both of those statements. Anyway, that's for you to discover. Anyway, that's interesting too, because that's a symbol, parenthetical. It's supposed to take something and say, and by the way, and then gives you some more, but the by the way never ends here. So, anyway, the symbolic universe orders history and establishes a shared memories for us and creates meaning. Institutions and roles are legitimated, made legitimate by locating them in a meaningful world with these definitions that are socially shared. And then we enact the symbolic universe through our daily routines. That's what we do. We reenact it and we enact it. And then that is how our symbolic universe is maintained, and we help to maintain it. Interestingly, and this is a good parenthetical, universe maintenance is not necessary usually. You don't have to reinforce it unless there's a problem with it. If there's a problem with competing histories, okay, heating his it, competing histories, culture clash. Okay, this is when symbolic universes of shared values and social roles clash and compete. Then you've got a problem. But, and also, a symbolic universe can be created and enforced through power structures. That's where it becomes difficult because it can keep us in place. And then I have to plug again this book that I used to teach in Sociology 101 a long time ago, The Social Construction of Reality. I think I mentioned it last time. Peter Berger and Thomas Luckman, it talks about exactly how the symbolic universe is created and then how these systems can possibly compete. And then what do we do? Okay, but everyone, every single living human being has the potential to imagine and create symbols and the symbolic universe. So whatever you create and put out there, you're seeding your culture, you're seeding our symbolic universe. And the extent to which we can effectively communicate may depend on our social position or our visibility or our imagination. But we can start by shifting, if we want to do something new, start by shifting our sense of limitation. Okay. And this may be something as simple. I've mentioned examples like this before. This isn't really simple, but I used to do a lot of work with teens, and I'm thinking of a specific example right now, a lot of teen parent mediation that I did. And I can remember one boy who was about 15 or 16, and he was a phenomenal artist. Everybody picked him out. Everybody at the school picked him out and said, "Oh, you're amazing. You know, you're just absolutely incredible." And the art teacher said, "Oh, you're amazing. You're amazing. You need to do art." And he says, "Oh, no, I can't." And it escalated into some other problems. And I wound up doing a mediation with he and his parents. And his dad said, he can't do art, came from his dad. And his dad said, our people don't do that. Men don't do that. Uh, well, I say, well, what do you do? What do men do? This is from a long time ago. And he says, yeah, we do karate. We don't do art. You know? So that kid had to overcome heavy duty parental. No, we don't. We can. Other people do that, but not our people, not our type, not our ethnic group. You name it. We don't do that. Okay. And my kid's not going to do that. Okay. And you're not going to do that. Okay. So this is really hard when we get these messages. Okay. So we have to shift our sense of limitation, but we're all adults here and we can do that if we need to. Okay. Now I also want to mention the power of re-symbolization, which is very often used and also used to manipulate us by advertising and so on. So re-symbolization means you take a widely used symbol like the American flag or the eagle or something like that, but you redefine it. Who owns it, right? And you redefine it, you give it a new meaning. And this is extremely effective because the symbol is already recognized. So people already know what the symbol is, and the symbol itself doesn't have to be created. You could make a new flag or something like that, but if you take an old symbol that everybody knows, you redefine it, then you communicate the redefinition of it. And it's called re-symbolization, and everybody now then can understand a new definition. And generally, the American flag means something like you are with us or you are against us. And it's a common symbol, so it is frequently redefined. People are frequently redefining what it means, but that's called re-symbolization. So I made up this one. This popped into my mind the other day. I thought, oh, what about the Liberty Bell? That's one that's not re-symbolized a lot. People don't think of it that much. But you could take the Liberty Bell and you could create what you want it to mean, and then you market the meaning, and then you encourage people to ring bells everywhere, and no words need be spoken. You're just ringing a bell, right? So that's how re-symbolization works. So you take an old symbol and you redefine it. Okay. And then, so sphere 8 is called the absolute or perfect intelligence. In sphere 8, it's important to keep our consciousness aligned with the mystical intelligence of the number 7 that continually is arising. And absolute or perfect intelligence continually will adjust itself. It's living cosmological reality. And then I said, remember, you are cosmos on the path of your own self discovery. And that is actually the absolute and perfect truth because it's going to change what you symbolize, what you believe, but you are the absolute perfect truth. Also, the astrology, it's Mercury. What does Mercury represent? It's the planet closest to the sun. It moves really fast from our perspective. Mercury, the god, delivers messages with great agility. It's the province of communication, and Mercury also carries the caduceus. And the caduceus also shows up on the strength card number 8. And the caduceus is the symbol of healing. The caduceus also means knowledge is power and power is knowledge. And it is the symbol of the American Medical Association as well. And Mercury can be a trickster because complexity can be the quote gift of rational thinking. As things become more complex, they can become more difficult. Sphere 8 is the spiritual experience of the vision of splendor. So when we start getting aligned with sphere number 8, when we align with cosmological consciousness, we realize we are cosmological consciousness. This is the vision of splendor. We are the universe thinking. We are the universe remembering. We are the universe becoming. We are living creative power in of the cosmos. We are cosmological craftspeople, crafting our world from the inside out, even as the outside is flowing in. And knowing this, Paul Foster Case, who was a great Kabbalistic teacher, said, we find peace, security, health, wealth, and satisfaction. Just remembering the vision of splendor and who we are. So sphere 8, power to symbolize, and this is cosmological art. The cosmos codes symbolizes what it learns to maintain itself and keep evolving. So how will you symbolize it? How will you symbolize what you are learning and what you know in order to keep evolving? And now we come to our Yoda powers. So we've been working on our Yoda powers all year long, and here they are. Again, 0, you are living universe. This is visionary cosmology. You are living universe with universal powers. That's surrounded by and inside of us. 0. Number one, you are unique. That's the DNA. Even though 99.9% of our DNA is shared either with the earth or other levels of sharing, the human species, there is this piece of it that is unique, absolutely unique. Never have been before, never will be again. You are unique, a specialized spark of universe, never to be duplicated. And that also means your attractions, desires, and passions are unique, and they illuminate your cosmic powers and your contribution to the universe. Follow your dreams. That's your attraction. Follow your own dreams. That's you. And then your number three, your creations create the future of creation. So create. And then number four, stabilize your creations so that they can continue to endure the best they can. And then five, when change happens, release, redesign, create anew. These are the powers that we've been working on the whole year now, and we're coming near the end. Okay, number six, walk in beauty and leave beauty where you pass. Number seven, transcend and transmute. Seek a greater way of knowing. This is the great work, as they call it, in the mystery tradition. Number eight, hone your knowledge. This is where we are today. Hone your knowledge, symbolize what you learn, and with that knowledge, seed the future of both your own life. And when you seed your own life with what you know, it moves out into the collective. Okay, from sphere eight, seed sphere five. That's through the path of the hangman. Seed sphere six. It's the path of the devil. Seed sphere seven through the tower. Seed sphere 9 and 10, and just grow the future. Let it grow. Let it grow. Cast your seeds out and grow the future. All right, and now we come to a reading on symbolization and the astral triangle. So remember that this is the triangle of personality, where personality is formed. So first, a couple notes on tarot reading. The position of each card, the position each card occupies, is more important than the sequence in which you place the cards down or the way you draw the cards or anything like that. So you put your cards face down. I usually put them face down so I don't get distracted. And you put them down, but you, as the reader, you need to know what the position means. Okay, if you don't know what the position means, the reading's not going to make any sense. And there are no rules about what order you put them down on. Usually the first one you put down in most spreads, they call it, that's going to be the most important card. But it depends on the reading as well. So with this one, the first card you put down isn't going to be the most important. They're all pretty equal in weight for this particular reading. But you need to know what it is before you place the cards. And if you don't understand the meaning of a card that you draw, just imagine saying, I don't get this, I don't get this, and then draw another card and then see what that card tells you about the card you just drew that you didn't understand. Okay, so I always draw another card if I don't get it. So this on this reading, the tower, we have the tower. What new vibration is emerging? So I actually put that one down as the first one because we're in this sea of emerging vibrations right now, and it's changing moment by moment. So the tower. So what new vibration is emerging? So that's a position. Now that's going to be a position. And then our cards are going to be placed in an inverted triangle, right? So number seven, what new vision is arising within you now? Number eight, the seven is what new vision is emerging within you now. Then I pick the star as the next one. So we're actually kind of going in a circle here. The star, what is your cosmic mission? As if you came in with something to do or to be. And then we go to the number eight. Oh, okay, I didn't do these. It's not quite a circle. So first I put down the tower, then I put down the seven, what new vision is arising, then the star, then back up to the eight. How can you symbolize your new vision that is emerging out of both the seven and the star, then up to the eight? How can you symbolize your new vision in the sun? How can you market your new vision? So if you were going to shine a light on it and put it out in the world, how would you do that? And then number nine, how will your vision seed consciousness, yours and others? So that goes into the unconscious, both individual and collective. Okay, so this is, I would call this kind of a high level reading. You can invent your own readings to match what you're looking for. I do this all the time. I know this is kind of advanced, but if I'm looking for something specific, I will create the spread to bring up the information I'm looking for, and then I will interpret the cards that come up and the story that's coming up. And usually, what that's going to do is enhance my story that I already have and take it to another level. Okay, so I'm going to move on and finish this lecture today, but you can come back and pause on this particular slide to do this reading, okay, after we're finished. Okay, here we go. Next slide. These are our texts. These are the ones that we've been using all year long. Tarot of the Spirit, Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit, Visionary Cosmology, and the Lightning Papers. So I'm rereading the Lightning Papers right now, and I'm just reading the story part and moving through that and seeing how the characters change in the story part. That's been fun. Okay, the texts. And then our homework, Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit, number 8, all of the 8 information, Visionary Cosmology, the 8th power, Symbolization. And then if you're doing the certification, answer your questions in writing and turn them in. And the bonus question. And then with the Lightning Papers, just read the Symbolization, the story part. Okay, that's our homework, same as we've been doing all year long. And to end, I just want to say again, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Deep gratitude. So much gratitude I have for you that I cannot even express it in words or symbols, but there's a little symbol of a heart flowing out from me to you. Okay, so bless, bless, bless until next time. All right, take good care.